What's up, ladies and gents? Welcome back again to the Podonthego show. I am your host, Raz, and today is February 10th, 2021, and this week our theme is consistency. So I have to finish this week doing an episode every day, otherwise the entire thing doesn't make any sense. And today I am going to do a new segment. It's called Analyzing a Great Podcast. There's a lot of podcasts out there. Very few are really good. Very few can stay consistent and stay great over the years. So that's what we're going to try to analyze today. And today's episode is Stuff You Should Know. Okay? It's one of the OG podcasts. Any podcast player that you use, you're going to find it in one of the top recommended slots, especially for new podcasters. I remember listening to it when I first started listening to podcasts in like 2012. I was a real estate agent, and I wake up early in the morning, like 5 a.m., and run around the neighborhood, and I would listen to this podcast and a couple other ones. So this is, it's a classic podcast. And if I'm honest, I really wanted to hate these guys. I really wanted to hate this podcast and do your favorite podcast sucks. I had the graphic made up and everything. I was ready to go. I was ready to do a hit piece. I was ready to talk junk about it. I was ready to, tweet them and tell them that they suck, Josh and Chuck, but I couldn't. I couldn't. They're king. So they get the crown. It's a great podcast, and it's been a great podcast for a long time. And I'll tell you why. The main reason that I switched, I'll tell you that a little bit closer to the end of the show. We'll get to that. But here, so it's a few reasons why I believe it to be great. Number one is consistency, the theme of the week, and something they do tremendously well. I use Pocket Cast, and as of today, they have 1,654 episodes live on, my podcast player. They've been going hard for 13 years. Same two hosts, Josh and Chuck, and the same intro music. This is one thing I don't agree with. Switch it up sometimes, get a different intro, get a different outro, get some different music. But I guess if it works, it works. And that's that's what it is about being consistent. That's why it's so important. But that's incredible. It's just a masterclass in consistency. Most podcasts fail after episode 7. It's just a rule of life. Maybe more now after coronavirus and people have more time at home. But most podcasts fail by now. They would have failed a long time ago. Most podcasts don't last past probably like 2 or 3 months of doing their podcast because they realize how much hard work it is. But these guys, this team at howstuffworks.com have been able to create a podcast that's lasted for over a decade. 13 years. How crazy is that? In 2021, and I know they've gone through ups and downs. I'm sure that there have been times where they're like, man, I don't know if this is worth it. Should we keep going? Should we put our efforts in other places? But this is it's incredible. If you just think about that, podcasting, I think, started in like around that time, and they've been there the entire time. Number two, they found a niche, and stuck with it. This is who I think their niche is. A hipster in Portland or Seattle with the hat and the beard. I thought about getting a fake mustache today and twisting up the quarters just so and putting on a flannel shirt just so I could fit in while I listen to the podcast. But, who else did I also thought this was their niche too.
That's quite a wrap you're wearing. Perhaps I could get you some fluffy new slippers made from the heads of innocent and defenseless baby seals.
Who is this ghastly man?
Ace Ventura, pet detective. And you must be the Monopoly guy. Hey, thanks for the free parking.
Another.
Okay. Hi. Yeah, but that's who I think they are. That's who I thought the dish was. But clearly I love it, and I'm just a nerd, a tech nerd, and anime nerd. So, but I love the podcast. So they found a niche, people who like these weird facts and talking points, and also another cool thing about it is this is a podcast that you can easily share with people. It's like, wow, we were talking about this topic at the bar the other night. I heard a podcast talk about it. I'll share this podcast with you. We were talking about how, I don't know, how Congress works. And when you know it, I heard this on a podcast 2 days later. I'm going to share it with you. It's only 10 minutes. You can listen to it at any time, So it's just an incredibly shareable, talkable, interesting podcast. And the two hosts, they have, Chuck and Josh and Chuck, they have, I'll get to it. Next. Why it's great. It's a perfect addition to the blog. Okay. Or the website. The website is howstuffworks.com. They created the podcast from the website, and it's just a perfect addition. It's the ideal podcast and the ideal lead generator for their website, which I'm sure is the hub of everything they do. And just a little bit about the website that I found from their about page on their website, howstuffworks.com. Started in 2008, same year as the podcast. Currently, 35 million downloads per month across all of their podcasts. I add a business model here because when you think about it, it's incredible. It's brilliant how they were able to monetize the podcast as well as monetize their website, and how everything kind of comes back and flows back to the hub, which is their website. And that includes, they've created books from the podcast. They do live events in large venues. They do website ads, podcast sponsors, YouTube ad revenue, just all kinds of ways to make it worthwhile for the people involved. Just to make sure that everybody's getting paid appropriately, make sure that everybody's compensated correctly for the work they put in. Because I'm sure there's a lot of research that goes into all these posts, and that prep work is something a lot of podcasters leave out, but they do a tremendous job of. Next is they started early, and beginning in 2008, the beginning of the podcast industry's popularity, and there's a lesson there, and the lesson is just start. It's the Nike thing. Just do it. Just start your podcast. If you have a podcast idea, then start now. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. And it's the same thing with podcasts. The best time to start a podcast is now, as soon as possible, because if you can start now and stay consistent, 10 years from now, you'll look back and say, wow, that was a great decision. Because of the growth, because of the impact, because of the connections you make, because of the money you make, the compensation you receive, everything, So if you have an idea for a podcast and you have a confidence in yourself speaking on it, then yeah, just start now. And that's what they did. They started. It was a new thing then. I'm sure they got blowback from other people on the team, or I'm sure they got blowback, or just had second thoughts. Everybody has second thoughts whenever you start something new, so I'm sure they had them. But they did it, and they stuck with it. Family friendly, and I'll get to this in a second. But one thing I want to point out that I forgot to mention when I said it was a perfect addition. I didn't have a place to put it right in the slide. But one thing I forgot to mention is that something you can learn from, especially if you're a larger organization thinking about starting a podcast and you have a lot of team members and you don't know who's going to be the host and a co-host or whatever, do what they did. So I listened to I did a lot of research on this, but I listened to at least 25 episodes. So that's like 20 hours, probably like 15 hours of the episodes just over the past week. And in the beginning, they didn't know who the co-host was going to be. I think Josh was there the entire time, but it took 3 or 4 months before Chuck came on. And then immediately they had a camaraderie that added to the show, and they noticed it, and he became the permanent co-host. And so that's a way to do it if you're a larger organization thinking about launching a podcast to help grow your business, your current business. I would say start with a dedicated host, and if you want more people to join in, then just do auditions and see where the camaraderie is. See where the what's the word I'm looking for? See who goes together the best. I'll think about the word as soon as I turn the camera off, but you know what I'm trying to say. All right, so next, is family friendly, right? And I think this is something that a lot of people miss, and it's deeper than just being, about ad revenue and sponsors wanting to be a part of the show. It's deeper than that, because something most podcasters miss out on when they're trying to be edgy and they're cussing all the time and they're talking about graphic or R-rated subjects. They miss out on building a relationship with children who are listening, because kids grow up to be adults and kids grow up to make money. And if you're thinking about the long term, if you're planning to do a podcast for 20 years, then you might as well be family friendly for the most part, because then it's just like McDonald's, right? Growing up as kids, at least in my instance, right? In my experience, I grew up, I had a birthday party at McDonald's. You can go play on a play place. You get your toy. You know what I'm saying? You get a cheeseburger, some fries, some ice cream. You know what I'm saying? You leave McDonald's with a high almost. They drug you up. They want you to come back. It's incredible. How they, the place used to be colorful. My parents loved McDonald's, so they took me there a lot because they had experiences as a kid and these memories that they created as a kid with their families. And then that's how McDonald's kept people coming back. It wasn't necessarily the food, it's the experience. At a certain point anyway, it wasn't the food, it was the experience of being a kid, and then you wanted your kids to experience it, so you give them a birthday party there. But I think they messed up now, because now every new McDonald's looks like like some kind of corporate office space. Like they want to become a coffee shop now, a corporate coffee shop, or they want to. It's got a FedEx Kinko's feel to it. It doesn't have a fun kid friendly experience, So anyway, that's the same thing you could do with a podcast. If you can allow your podcast and like parents to interact with their kids, or parents are taking their kids all over the place. We have a minivan, suburban lifestyle here in America. So kids are always in the car with their parents, and parents are looking for more stuff to listen to that they can listen to with their kids and interact with their kids with. So that could be your podcast, and that's their podcast, because my son loves this podcast now. And I love it because now I've created an experience with stuff you should know. And this is the biggest reason why I didn't find a way to say, make this your favorite podcast sucks segment. And now it's a analyzing a great podcast segment, because they have an episode that says, why can't you say toy boat 3 times fast, or something like that. I left a link to it in the description, in the comments. And I was listening to it with my son, and we had a little moment. We both would try to say toy boat, and I can't say it at all. I can barely say it twice fast. But he couldn't say it either, and we just laughed, and we laughed and tried it for 10, 15 minutes, and then we tried to get his grandfather to say it and his mother to say it, and it was, it was a moment. And now I have that moment with my son, and now Stuff You Should Know is, to me, a great podcast because of that episode. And there's a lot of episodes like that. So, yeah, I think that's it. I hope you guys got something from this. I hope you guys were able to learn and improve your podcast and stay consistent with your podcast. You never know where it's going to go, but it's not about creating a viral hit or a viral sensation. It's about doing a great quality podcast for a decade, on a regular basis. That's what it's all about. It's not about making one big hit. It's not about getting, a former president of the United States on your podcast, or Will Smith or Tom Cruise on your podcast. That doesn't matter. What it's about is creating quality content on a regular basis. So you're not just adding to the noise, but you're actually impacting somebody. So thank you guys for listening. This has been the Pod on the Go show. I am your host, Raz, and I hope you guys have a great day. If you want to start a podcast and you want to learn, you can reach out to me and I can help you with it. info@podonthego.com, or you can go to podonthego.com. So thank you guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.